Hello everyone, my name is Becca and welcome to Yellow Cat Studios. Today I'm going to be making a corset top and a corset style belt. For my corset top, I'm going to be using this simple tan colored fabric. It's very lightweight, so I'm not sure if I'm going to need a lining or anything. This was just in the remnants section of Fabricland, so it just came in a small chunk that was left over. And for my corset belt, I'm going to be using this one, also from the remnants section. It's a pink, almost like tweed style fabric. It's got some white and a little bit of a gold or yellow in there, but I thought that was very pretty. So for both of these, I'm gonna kind of draw up my own pattern. So I'm gonna start with the corset top. So I have this large sheet of packing paper that I'm going to use to draw out my patterns. For the corset top, I'm using a snug fitting tank top to help me get the shape. So I'm just going to line it up on here, and I'm going to start by tracing the top of it. I'm not going to trace the whole thing because I don't want it this long, so I'm just going to trace the top and then measure how long I want the corset top to be. Alright, so it's a bit hard to see on camera. I've finished patterning the front of the corset top. I did use my tank top a little bit to help me with the width of it, but for a lot of it I took measurements and used those. So my total length down from my neckline to the bottom middle is 12.5 inches. My side length is 10 inches. And it goes in on a bit of an angle, and my bottom line here is 7 inches. My strap length for the front is 5.5 inches down to the top of the neckline, and my neckline goes in a little bit of a curve, and my 1/2 of my neckline from straight from the strap to the middle is about 3 3/4 inches, so my total is going to be about 7.5 inches for my neckline. So for the front piece, I'm going to cut out half of the front and cut my fabric on fold down the middle. Okay, so I didn't film drawing out and cutting the back pattern because it's hard to see on camera, it's hard to film and explain it. So this is what my back pattern piece looks like. I used the front pattern for the strap and the underarm part so that it all matched up. And then I also used the front pattern to get my side. So this side again is 10 inches. And so is this side. So the back side does go in on a little bit of an angle. But the middle back is a straight edge. So making your own pattern, it's going to be a lot of just like using your own body for measuring. Like I measured down my sides, where I wanted the neckline to hit and how far down I wanted the corset. So it's going to be a lot of trial and error. A lot of corset patterns will have like a middle, front, side, and back. I've only done 2 pattern pieces. I'm gonna see if that works. I'm gonna make this out of some scrap fabric first to make sure this pattern actually works and fits, and I can see where I might need to make changes before using my actual fabric that I want to use, because I only have a little bit of this and I can't get more. So scrap fabric first, and I will update you after I've made that and if I've made any changes. Okay, so I made a test corset out of the pattern I made. I did have to make a couple adjustments to my pattern. So I've added a little bit of width to the back piece, and I've also cut down the armholes a little bit more. They were a little bit tight on my test piece. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut out my nice fabric and start piecing it together. So seeing how much fabric I actually have, I am going to cut out basically 2 corsets so that I can do a lining out of the same fabric. I think that's going to give me a little bit more structure because this fabric is quite light and flowy. So I think having a second layer will just kind of give it a little bit more structure while still keeping it comfortable to wear kind of every day. All of my pieces are cut out now, so I've got 2 of my front pieces and 4 of my back pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew together 1 set of my pieces at the side seams, and I'm not going to sew the straps together. So I'm just going to sew at the side seams, which is what I like about doing a corset top this way, because it's simpler, because you just have 1 front piece and 2 back pieces, so you only have the stitching at the sides. A lot of the time I do see people making the corsets with the middle front, 2 sides, and 2 back pieces, which looks great as well, but I wanted to do something a little bit simpler for kind of everyday wear. This is also a pattern that you could modify, so you could have it like this, but you could also add darts to give it that extra definition. So like I said, I'm going to start by sewing the sides together, and I'm going to do this for both sets, and then I'll come back to tell you what I'm going to do to attach the lining and outer pieces together. Alright, so I have both of my sets sewn together at the side seams. Now I'm going to attach them together. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to attach them along the straps and the neckline. I really hope this works how I think it's going to. So I'm going to put them right sides together and sew them along the armholes and the straps, the neckline, and the top back, which is why I didn't sew any of my straps together on the individual sets, so that I can flip them right side out after I've sewn along all of this. Okay, so my 2 pieces are sewn together along the top. Now, the reason I just did it along the top and not down my side seams as well is because I wanted to be able to sandwich in loops in between all of my pieces to be able to tie up the corset in the back. So now I'm just gonna go in and trim a bunch of these little threads that I've got. I have a few spots that I want to trim off some excess fabric, as well as put a few slits in my excess fabric so that when I turn it inside out it sits a little bit nicer. Press down these seams on the inside so they're not sticking up. And then I'll be ready to turn this right side out. Alright, so I realized that I don't have to flip my piece right sides out before I do the sides. So I've cut some of this, it's called Decorative Rope. It's just like thin cording that I'm going to use to make the loops on the back of my corset top. So to do this, I've cut these, how long are these? About 2.5 inches. Fold them in half to make a loop, and then I'm going to line them up along the open side of my corset top. So I have opened it up, so this is the right side or the outside. So I'm just lining these up along the open edge. After I sew these onto one side, I'm going to fold over the other side again to sandwich them in between. This is just going to make sure that I don't miss anything and they actually get sewn in. So I don't know if I mentioned this, but the reason you sew them this way is because this is the outside of the top. So the actual loop parts will be flipped to the outside and the ends will be sandwiched on the inside. Okay, so I've gone ahead and ironed all of my edges out. So this is the outside of the corset top. I am going to go and do a stitch along the entire thing just to make sure that it lays flat and it doesn't move around. So this is what the corset top is looking like. So my last step for assembling it is going to be hemming the bottom. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to take each layer and fold it inwards and sew the two folded edges together. Probably should have done this before I sewed up the sides because that's going to make folding in the bottom a little bit more difficult, but I can't really go back and change that. Okay, so I've decided this is going to be too difficult to hem how I was planning to. So if you're making this the same way I am, before you sew the sides together, take each layer and hem the bottom once. Not together, just on their own, hem it. And then you can sew the sides together and sew the bottom together. Since I didn't do that, I am going to make kind of a bias tape out of the same fabric so that it matches. And I'm going to use that to finish off the bottom edge. So to do that, I'm just going to measure how much I need. I might actually do it in a couple strips so that I don't have to worry about trying to turn it. So I'm just going to measure how long I need each strip of bias tape to be and cut out thin strips that I can basically make double fold bias tape out of. So this is double fold bias tape. So I'll basically cut strips this size fold them in once, press them so that that fold stays, fold them in half again, press it again, and then sandwich the bottom edge in between and sew it on like that. So that's it for the corset top. I did end up taking in the back a little bit. When I added length to my pattern, I didn't think about the loops that I was going to be using. So without taking it in, it didn't tie up very nice. So I just took in, I think about a centimeter on each side of the back, and that made it look a lot nicer, and you could see the ribbon for the back of the corset. Other than that, I'm very happy with how this turned out. I think it ended up looking really nice, and it's super comfortable because there's no boning or anything in it, so it's just kind of like a shirt, a tank top. So I'm going to be putting the corset belt in another video. Making the corset top and filming it ended up being a lot longer than I expected, so I'm going to do them separate. So that'll be my next video coming up next week. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, leave a like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a good day, afternoon, or evening, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!